Good day, students. Today we will going to learn another math lesson, and that is division of decimals. How did you find your journey on multiplying decimals? Was it an exciting experience? This time, we will continue our trip, a trip where you will enjoy exploring with the next operation, and that is division of decimals. For this lesson, we will going to number 1, divide whole numbers by decimals up to 1 decimal place. Number 2, we will going to divide 1 decimal place by whole numbers. Number 3, we will going to divide whole numbers by decimal up to 2 decimal places. And lastly, we will going to discuss how to round off the quotient. Okay, now to start, let's start with our first lesson, and that is dividing whole numbers by decimal up to 1 decimal place. By the way, we have steps to follow in dividing decimals. Step number 1, we need to multiply the divisor by the power of 10, or simply move the decimal point to the right to make it a whole number. Always remember that we need to make the divisor in a whole number. Step number 2, do the same with the dividend. Place the decimal point directly above the decimal point of the dividend. Okay, when we do it in our divisor, we need to do that one also to our dividend. Okay, and lastly, step number 3, we need to divide just like dividing whole numbers. So those are the steps on how to divide decimals. Now, if you're okay, then let's start. We have here a word problem. Let us all read. Aling Sandra sew pillowcases. She uses 0.7 meters of cloth for every pillowcases she makes. How many pillowcases can she make out of 21 meters of cotton cloth? Now this time we were going to divide 21 by 0.7 to find out how many cotton cloth or how many pillowcases can she make. Okay, remember our steps in dividing decimal. The step number 1, multiply the divisor by the power of 10, or simply move our decimal point to make it a whole number. So let's just move this decimal point of our divisor. Let's move this one to the right to make this one as a whole number. Always remember that we need to make our divisor as a whole number. Okay, now after we move the decimal point of our divisor, let's proceed to rule number 2 or step number 2. Do the same with the dividend and place the decimal point directly above the decimal point of the dividend. Okay, when we move the decimal point of our divisor, we need also to move the decimal point of our dividend. Notice how many times we move the decimal point of the divisor. We move it only one time. Okay, so since we move it one time, we're going to move our decimal point of 21 also, okay, to 1 time to the right. Okay, so since 21 is a whole number, the decimal point of 21 is just right here. Okay, so let's move now the decimal point 1 place to the right, 1 place to the right. Okay, so here now the position of our decimal point, so just affix 0. Okay, and don't forget to point directly above the decimal point of our dividend. We're going to place again our decimal point to our quotient. It should be aligned. They should be aligned. Okay, so after that one, I guess we can now continue the division process. We're now ready to go to step number 3. Divide just like dividing the whole number. Okay, now let's divide. Let's start with 21 divided by 7. How many 7 can we find in 21? We have 3. So put 3 at the top of 1. 3 times 7, that is 21. And subtract 21 minus 21, that is 0. Bring down 0 here. 0 divided by 7, that is 0. And 0 times 7, that is 0. And 0 minus 0, okay, the answer is now 0. There's nothing to be bring down. So for our final answer, we have 30. So it means Aling Sandra can make 30 pillowcases out of her 21 meters of cotton cloth. Okay, so that is how we divide decimals. Okay, so don't forget to follow these steps before we continue dividing. Okay, now let us try another one here. Let's read. Gilbert bought 128 kilograms of onions in the market. He packed these onions into plastic bags of 0 or 0.4 kilogram per pack. How many packs can he make? Okay, so for this problem, we will going to divide 128 by 0.4 to find out how many packs Gilbert can make out of his 128 kilograms of onions. Okay, so this will be now the process. So we have here 128 divided by 0.4. Always remember our step number 1, and that is we need to move the decimal point to the right to make it a whole number. So let's move this one to the right to make this one as a whole number 4. Okay, then let's proceed to the second step, and that is we're going to place, or we're going to do the same with our dividend. Place the decimal point directly above the decimal point of the dividend. Okay, so for this one, the decimal point of 128 is just right here. So since we move one place to the right, we're going to move this one also one place to the right. Okay, so this will be now the new place of our decimal point. And don't forget to affix 0 since we have a missing space here. Okay, so after that one, don't forget to point directly the decimal point above our dividend. So this will be now the decimal point for our quotient. They should be properly aligned. Okay, so after we put now the decimal point at the top of our dividend, let's proceed to the step number 3, and that is divide, just like dividing whole numbers. So let's divide 12 divided by 4. That is, okay, that is 3. 3 times 4, that is 12. Let's subtract 12 minus 12, that is 0. So this time we're going to bring down 8. 8 divided by 4, that is 2. 2 times 4, that is 8. 8 times 8, that is 0. This time, let us bring down the 0. 0 divided by 4, that is 0. And 0 times 4 is 0. 0 minus 0 is, of course, we have 0. There's nothing to be bring down, so this will be now our final answer. So, Gilbert can make how many packs of onions? He can make 320 packs. Okay, so any question? Okay, very good. Now, this time, let us proceed to our second lesson, and that is dividing one decimal place by a whole number. Okay, so we still have steps to follow. Dividing one decimal place by a whole number. Step number 1, we need to write the equation using the long division method. Step number 2, we're going to write the decimal point directly on the top of the decimal point of our multiplicand. And step number 3, just continue dividing just like how we divide the whole numbers. Now let us try some examples for this one. We have Kate has 70.71 hours to spend for her 5 subjects. Okay, reviewing her science, math, English, Filipino, and AP assignments. How much time will we spend for each activity? Okay, so notice we have here how many subjects? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Kate has 5 subjects and she has only 0.70 of an hour. So this time we will going to find out how many or how much time Kate will spend for each subject. Okay, so we have here 5 subjects, so we're going to step number 1, write the equation using the long division method. So we're going to divide 0.70 divided by 5 because Kate has 5 subjects to be finished. Okay, and after this one, write the decimal point directly to the top of our multiplicand. So since our divisor here 5 is already a whole number, no need to move the decimal point because the decimal point is already on the right side, so no need to move the decimal point. All we have to do is just to align the decimal point, okay, at the top of our multiplicand. Okay, so this one we're going to align our decimal point here. Okay, now this time we're going to go to step number 3, divide just like dividing whole numbers. So this time 0 divided by 5, that's already 0. Okay, 0 times 5, it's already 0. Okay, 0 minus 0 is 0. This time let us bring down 7. 7 divided by 5, that is 1. 1 times 5, that is 5. And let us subtract. 7 minus 5, that is 2. This time, bring down 0. 20 divided by 5, that is 4. And 4 times 5, that is 20. 20 minus 20, the answer for this one is 0. There's nothing to be bring down. So for our answer, we have 0.14 of an hour Kate can spend on each of her subjects. No problem. Mrs. Gomez received a box of canned goods weighing kilograms. She plans to place this into smaller boxes weighing 0.16 kilogram each. How many boxes does she need? Okay, now for this one, we're going to divide the 112, divide it by 0.16 to find out how many boxes does she need. Okay, now for this one, notice that we're going to divide the 112 by 0.16. And for this one, since this is a decimal, we really need to move the decimal point to the right to make 16 as a whole number. Now to move our decimal point, let's move this one to the right. 1, 2. Okay, so the decimal point now is on the right side. So since we move our decimal point in our divisor, we were going to move also the decimal point to our dividend. How many times do we move our decimal point here? We move this one 2 times. 1, 2. So we're going to move also our decimal point here 2 times to the right. So let's move 1, 2. And then just affix 0. So decimal point for this one will be here. So this will be now 11,200, and don't forget to align the decimal point. Okay, now since we already now moved the decimal point to our divisor and dividend, we could now continue the division process. So we have here 112 divided by 16. So how many 16 can we find in 112? We have 7. Okay. So 7 divided by 116, that is exactly 112. 112 divided minus 112, that is 0. Bring down 0. 0 divided by 16, that is 0. 0 times 16, it's still 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. And let's bring down the last 0 here. 0 divided by 16, it's 0. 0 times 16, again, it is 0. And 0 minus 0, the answer is 0. There's nothing to be bring down. So the final answer is 700. So how many boxes does Mrs. Gomez need? She needs 700 boxes. Okay, so just don't forget, students, to move the decimal point of our divisor to the right so that it will become now a whole number. And for our dividend, we need also to move the decimal point depending on how many times we move the decimal point to our divisor. If we move this one 2 times, then we're going to move also the decimal point 2 times also. If we move this one one time only, then we're going to move 1 time also. It depends on how many places do we move the decimal point. So that's it. So we have here a saying from Brian Schellsneck. Ben wishes the world was organized by the Dewey Decimal System. That's why you're able to find whatever we're looking for. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Hope you've learned something for this lesson, and I really hope to see you in our next video. So bye bye, kids.